Howdy, fellas. Okay, let's see if this works. And if this doesn't work, then we just know something is very weird. And I still can't see it working on Hey, Sean. Hey, Keith. Wow. And now it's not letting me. Like I can't even. If I sign in on the browser, it just takes me to the app. All right. So guys, definitely kind of throwing me. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. So cool. Okay. Cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's really weird. So YouTube wasn't working on the app. Yeah, every time I think I figure this out, it does something weird. So if you're watching this from Argentina, which I can see that you are, and all over the place, that's super cool. This is typically what we do for Patreon. It's really hard for me to keep my mind straight when you're doing that. This is what we typically do privately on Patreon. We have these acoustic performances. We have all sorts of like insider kind of sessions where we break down songs and we do all sorts of cool stuff for you guys. And if you support us on Patreon, we do this every week unless we're on tour. When we're on tour, it goes a little bit more. We release snippets of or unreleased kind of like demos and all sorts of cool stuff, and we post updates and everything. But when we're home, which is the majority of the time, we only tour about 4 months a year max. We do stuff every week, and it's actually really, really cool. So, Vault Keeper, Sandy Havoc, all sorts of people that I haven't seen before. Hope you guys are all great. This is our first like normal event back. We've been touring a lot. We toured with Priest. Edema did a bunch of shows after that. We had an Edema tour before that, and it's been a really, really hectic year. And now we're home. We're really, really focusing on getting some albums going for both Julien-K and Edema. I think the first thing that would be cool to start with is that we spent a lot of time this week not only working on new music, but we did the big job of sort of looking through all of the music that we've created over the last couple of months and 2 years maybe since Harmonic Disruptor. And we've been ramping up and getting a lot more music recorded and written, and we had to do something that I call the song cull. And what is a cull? A cull is when you separate the wheat from the chaff, like you separate what's really, really good from the bullshit. And we had to go in and methodically go through and listen down to everything and start putting everything in the place where it needed to be so that we could focus on actually finishing the songs and delivering some very, very much needed new material and getting a big bowl of new material ready to go for you guys over the next couple of years so that we're not going on tour and then being left without content, which is kind of what happened post-COVID and everything. We kind of found ourselves scrambling, having a brand new album out that was probably one of our best albums and performed really well, and not being able to go out and tour. And it sort of threw us upside down, you know what I mean? Typically, you put the album out, go out and work, and then come back and you could work on new material. We didn't do that. So, from a band like business perspective, it does a lot of things. It makes our Spotify numbers go down. It makes all these things go down that we need to be up so that when we tour, we make money and our guarantees are high and all that kind of good stuff. So to do that, you've got to have a lot of fucking material ready to go. So weirdly enough, I think we're finding ourselves in the same boat that we were in almost all the time, especially the California Noir era, chapters 1 and 2. I think that things are sort of shaking out to where we have an album that I've codenamed Dark Mode. it's probably going to be the name of the album. But Dark Mode is very electro, and I think we're kind of pushing it to be even more, I don't know, dark wave, goth, like electronic industrial. At least that's what I want to do. I just kind of want this like body electric kind of, album. Maybe it's not even a full album, maybe it's an EP, we don't know, although judging from the list of songs this long, it could be an album. And then we have Trauma Echoes, which we started immediately after Harmonic Disruptor, and we weren't really knowing whether or not we could finish it because of COVID and all this kind of stuff going on, and it was all very discombobulated. But we have what looks like more than an entire album worth of material for that, and that's not even counting the new ideas we'll come up with, I'm sure. But we're getting close to actually finishing a couple of songs, which means that some new music could be coming soon. I have some ideas about how I want to kind of do this. Things have changed, and our understanding of how the business works has changed, and our ability to get music out in a cool way has changed. So I think that the good news is that some good new music could come out before we go on tour next year, which is going to be fantastic. But yeah, it looks like we do have about 2 albums worth of material yet again. So that'll be really, really good for everyone that loves Julien-K. Edema has new music as well, and we're working on that at the same time. Although right now I've been doing so much work with Edema, I'm really focusing on Julien-K right now to get that content up and rolling. See some questions here and some stuff that's popping up. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm going to be a daddy. How was it seeing Rammstein recently?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, their show is just stupendous. It's just, I don't even, I mean, nobody can touch what they're doing at this point. It's like, it was like what Kiss was doing back in the day, but now, and with the technology and the abilities and the scale that they can bring it now, it's just insane.
Yeah, super cool, super fun. They were all awesome. Too. Yeah, it sounded killer. It was just awesome, and they just never cease to amaze me. And it's so crazy because they're done with this giant tour, and then Till is in Mexico playing as Lindemann on another festival. So I think he's just on the fucking party train right now.
I love how they can really balance being so like heavy and almost very serious at times, but then very comedic. And they really have fun with what they do. So even though it's this massive show with like just the most ridiculous lights and fire and pyrotechnics, and like the sound is just like insane, they still like make fun of themselves and make fun of all kinds of things, and they can be super silly, and somehow it all works.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite things about them.
I think that's one of the things that makes them so successful too, is that they can kind of they have a humor built into everything they do. And even some of like the latest video they did, I mean, some of the stuff is the darkest shit I've ever seen in my life, but they just have humor woven through it all.
It's just like you can't totally take them seriously because, well, for one, we know them very well, so for us it's easy, but I think even on the outside, people probably look at it and just think,
it's fun.
God, it's funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
That there's just like, they just go for it. They just don't give 2 fucks. It's amazing.
Jeremy, wow, yeah, but you guys have always brought a new age with Old School Orgy and now with Julien-K. It's beyond untouched, even way before all the other bands could nowadays. Thank you so much. One of the hardest things to do with creating these new albums and this new music is, I feel the Harmonic Disruptor just hit the nail on the head so hard. It's so good. The songs are so good live, and they really define who we are really well, and it does reach back into that orgy era. It's actually really making it harder to write new music, because it's obviously we're doing different stuff.
Well, I think, the thing is that, I don't know why it is, but we're just not a band that repeats itself.
Yeah. It's tough to do Harmonic Disruptor 2.0.
Yeah, it's just... It
doesn't mean there won't be songs like that, but...
Exactly, but it's just not going to happen. It's just like, we're always trying new things, and we want to, I don't know. It's just like we always like to experiment, and every record has always got something different about it. And that's kind of what's happening now. We've just kind of been rowing down this stream of ideas, and we're just kind of trying to see where the boat lands, and kind of, there's been some points where I feel like it's like, okay, this is interesting. I think, in that sense, it's just like we're like painters or whatever. It's like, there's certain people, like, of course, Warhol or whatever, that, he has a very distinctive style.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at his career and you see how that is adapted into so many different things. And I'm sure that he would never just sit there and do that same, Campbell soup painting every time. But he might take that Campbell soup painting and utilize it in some new way, or get with Basquiat, and they get in there together, and all of a sudden it becomes this new thing. And that's kind of what we always do. We're always working with different people, and I think we're always just trying to try different things. So like Ryan was saying, it's always hard, and this has been hard right now because of so many different reasons, but we're definitely been poking holes in a lot of things, and really trying things to see what gets us excited, because I feel like at the end of the day, if we get excited about it, you guys will be stoked on it. And I do think that we aren't a band that repeats itself, so there's going to be some different elements to what we're doing, but there's always us underlying, and there's always those things that are there somehow mixed in, but in this kind of new way. And some of it is reminiscent of other things that, some of the stuff we've done so far, I'm like, this kind of sounds like it could have almost been on this album. And it's kind of like we do have a thing now, So I'm not really totally afraid of that either, that there are things that sound familiar for Julien-K fans. But it may not be from that one record. It might be more like that record or whatever, So it's definitely going to be interesting. I can tell you that. It always is.
So yeah, we've got I think it's a little liberating to have the idea of two different kind of albums. I think that all of this is fun, and I think that in the modern world, more and more products and interesting things that are quality, I think it's all good to have. We know that we need to be releasing singles more often. We need to keep that rolling. So I think that the new freedom that we have to create, material and release them that are going to be aimed at different releases is okay to do, and I think it's cool. And to know that we have more material held over that'll be, part of the major album and all that kind of stuff.
It's cool to have something to point at.
Yeah, I think so.
And having these two, whether they end up being two EPs or two albums or whatever, but just having something to kind of direct them is like, well, this seems like it fits more here, and this fits more here. And then, how it ends up getting released, obviously we will be releasing some singles, and I think it's probably really going to be about what gets done, and maybe later we decide where they end up as a whole record. Maybe things we'll have both coming out, and then eventually they'll just.
I think that's exactly what's going to end up happening.
Yeah,
and we already know, because we sort of, like, in the organization process, we went and organize what would be Trauma Echoes and what would be Dark Mode, and they are decidedly falling in those categories.
There's a few gray areas.
Yeah, a couple gray areas. Yeah. But I mean, I think by the time those become less gray to us, we're going to know where it goes. You know what I mean? So far the Dark Mode songs don't seem to have a guitar on them, and or very little. But most of them are totally synth and programmed. And then the Trauma Echo stuff is very heavy guitars, but slower. It's not as it's moody. It's almost that The Cure got much heavier, kind of a cool vibe. So, hopefully all cool stuff. All right, so let's get into our song. So as I said, for those of you who are just tuning in the wild, because we actually have a lot of people on here that are just kind of watching because it's live. That's super cool. This is typically our acoustic cover performance. We do the first Sunday of every month on Patreon. Every Sunday we do a special kind of cool event like this, and we usually hang out and talk and everything. A lot of our events are Zoom sessions, so you kind of have to be in the know to kind of be able to get the link to be able to participate. But we talk live with everyone. So you were gonna say,
Oh, I was gonna say, like, how we came up with this song or whatever. So I don't know if you guys know or not, but I'm a huge Jane's Addiction fan. During the '90s, when they were first coming out, I used to go see them a lot. They were in LA, and I got to see them as well as a lot of really other cool bands. But I got to see them, before they were signed, when they were signed, and they did a lot of really kooky stuff, especially in the beginning. They would play people's house parties. They would do like all kinds of cool stuff. And I just really fell in love with them as a band. I just thought there was just something so unique about what they were doing, because on one hand they were very progressive musically, but they also had a guitar player who was kind of very like metal, so it was like this weird, musical thing, and they weren't really afraid to do anything. I mean, they ventured off in songs that could be 10 minutes long, and then they'd have silly songs like Been Caught Stealing or Standing in the Shower Thinking. And I always loved Perry's whole vibe. Like, a lot of people don't like his voice. I loved Geddy Lee and Rush too. I guess I like those kind of high voices, but so you either got him or you didn't. And I thought, lyrically, his lyrics were just so like real world. Like most of it really wasn't fantasy. It was like based on just the shit that would go on, and you can only imagine what goes on in Perry's head, but he finds these things like standing in the shower thinking, and it's like, of course, everybody does this, but he wrote a song about it, like, how did he figure that out? Like, he's just very unique, and of course he created Lollapalooza, which was amazing, and they were live, they were insanely good. Perry used to do all his own effects live for his vocals, which was a really cool thing. And he was just like his in-between banter when they would perform. He just always had something really hilarious to say. Like he would make you laugh. And then, it's like the lyrics, like the song that we're going to play today, Jane says, it's so real, and that like this is based on something that was around him and that happened. Whether that's true or not, or the names are real or whatever, I don't actually know. But it's just so real the way that he writes, and it's such a simple song, but yet it has so much power. And it's probably their most popular song. It seems to be on Spotify. I was gonna say I have a funny, quick Dave Navarro story, but actually it's not funny. But Dave and I share birthdays. And I've met him many times over the years, and when we were in Orgy and stuff, we became kind of loose friends or whatever. And I had a really crazy encounter with him that was a very sort of fear and loathing type of situation. I won't get into the details, but it was really one of those Hollywood moments where I felt like I was like in a David Lynch movie or something, or Pulp Fiction.
I remember this.
Yeah, and I won't tell you what happened, because that's between us. I was there with a good girlfriend of mine. We had gone up to visit him one night in between some of our Hollywood stops, and what I walked into was just seriously something out of a very dark Hollywood movie. And I wish I could tell you, but I'm not going to. But when I left that night, I was definitely, like affected by what happened. I'd never seen anything like this before in my life, in person. And many years later, when Dave got sober, I ran into him at Swingers Restaurant in Hollywood, and he saw me and he came over and he's like, "Hey, I'm sober now, and I just want to tell you that, I had no way of getting a hold of you, but I remember what happened that night, and I want to apologize because, you know, no one should have ever seen me like that, like in that bad of a state. And I just thought, wow, that's great. At least you've made it full circle,
Yeah, that's cool.
and that you've pulled out of this. I mean, I don't know what he's doing these days. I haven't seen him in years, but it was a very interesting thing, and I felt good, you know, because obviously I was a big fan of these guys as well, and you know, it was a very, very interesting thing. But I'm glad that he's doing better.
Yeah, I've got a lot of good interactions with him, especially my ex was buddies with him, did his hair, and so he was definitely in our lives in and out here and there, and he was always really, really, really cool to me. Definitely,
Yeah.
you know, Sober Dave is awesome.
Yeah,
you know, he's
he's
a super good guy, and he's
really cool.
amazing guitar player. He's certainly a guitar player that I wish that I could say influenced me, but he was so good. I could play a lot of his riffs, but he was just so good, and I could never think of things that he thought of. It was all such creative guitar playing.
It's just the whole band in itself. It's like every person in it was just so unique and so talented. And you wouldn't, it's like even when you look at the pictures of them, especially back then, like the way they each looked, it was just kind of like, got this guy that looks like he's a surfer, right? The bass player, and even the drummer they kind of just look like dudes that would be out in like Venice Beach.
And they are Venice Beach dudes,
yeah.
So it's like,
and then you got like Dave, who's like this, like, you know, and Perry, they were kind of almost really gothy, and they wore a lot of makeup and stuff.
It's just weird.
Yeah, it's just like,
it's
how
cool.
did that all work? And then, you know, of course, they write great songs. And anyway, I know it's an endless story there, but I just wanted you guys to know kind of how I came to this determination of like, you know, this is a band that definitely had an influence on me, and you know, I still to this day love it. Put those records on and torture my girlfriend because she doesn't get it.
Yeah.
She doesn't really.
That's
get
so weird because Jane's Addiction was a huge influence on me too, but they were the first band I think that showed me that you can be really weird.
Yeah.
Like his voice was weird. They were kind of heavy, but they weren't. It was like a circus.
Yeah.
You know, they're colorful, but the songs are amazing, and everyone was good. Everyone was good. The drummer's amazing.
Stupid, yeah.
You know, they're all just fantastic, and they were truly weird, and it kind of threw a hitch into my world of you know, coming from Slayer and Metallica and this and that, and then getting into, you know, and Depeche Mode and New Order. That was the things that diametrically opposed kind of forces that I listened to, and then getting into Soundgarden and the grunge and Alice in Chains. Everything. Those were all pretty serious bands, and then Jane's Addiction comes.
I think the other thing for me, and with a lot of those bands too, even from that era, is that there's always a great riff.
Yeah.
And like whether it was Dave writing the riff, or I don't know who wrote it, but probably Dave who wrote the guitar riffs, but Eric Avery, the bass player, you know, there was so many like cool bass parts too.
Yeah.
All of his like, you know. You know, like, did he write that? I don't know. But I mean, so many.
It's almost like a guitar part.
Yeah, there's so many good like riffs, and so many of the songs start, at least the first couple albums, start with like the bass. And I love that because I'm a closet bass player too, and they're just those riffs that just hook you, you know. So I don't know. So a lot of good things. So
super cool.
Anyway, that's how we came up with doing this song, something different for us. I actually picked what's going to be the next acoustic song. I'm not going to tell you, but
it's such a cool song.
Yeah.
I feel like we should do a cover of it, like
Yeah.
record a cover.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so weird, and it's not something people do. They don't do these songs. You know?
Yeah.
So we'll have fun.
The
with
next
it.
one's going to be cool too. I actually want to play bass on that one. So.
Well, we'll get someone else to come play guitar on it, and I'll play a little guitar as well, and it'll be pretty awesome. So obviously, you know, Perry's a super unique singer. I'm not the singer he is, so I'm going to transpose these vocals. I have a show tonight with Edema, private show, actually a private event, so I'm going to save my voice a little bit, do my best to kind of make this work. But let's go ahead and get into show mode. Bring this up here. All right, so let's Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get everything going here because now I'm nervous. I was getting nervous before we do this shit.
I'm just gonna start and then you can jump in.
Let me just get this thing where it's not spinning around.
When you're ready.
Hey, 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 hey. All right, so
So this song is like, it's pretty straightforward, but you kind of have to get into a groove
Yes.
with it because it's the same kind of rhythm the whole time. So
it's one of those things where it's the scariest kind of song because you got to get on a horse and ride. You can't get bucked off.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate that because you sort of have to get on. I mean, I like it and I don't like it, but you got to get on, you got to do it. You know what I mean? So once he starts, I'm fucked. So bear with me. We just did a run through and it was pretty fucking good. I hope that I do as good as we did on that. So, all right. James says, I'm done with Sergio. Treat me like a rag doll. She hides the television. Said I don't know him nothing, but if he come back again, tell him to wait right here for me, or try again tomorrow. I'm gonna kick tomorrow. I'm gonna kick tomorrow. James says, have you seen my wig around? Feel naked without it. She knows they all want her to go. That's okay, man, she don't like them anyway. Jane says I'm going away to Spain when I get my money saved. Gonna start tomorrow. Gonna kick tomorrow. Gonna kick tomorrow. She gets mad and she starts to cry. She takes a swing, but she can't hit. She don't mean no harm, she just don't know what else to do about it. Jane goes to the store at 8. She walk up on St. Andrews. She waits and gets her dinner there. She pulls her dinner from her pocket. James says, I ain't never been in love. Don't know what it is. I only know if someone wants her. I only know you want me. I only know they want me. She's mad and she starts to cry. She takes her swing, but she can't hit. She don't mean no harm, she just don't know what else to do about it. Jane Kind of did it. Let's see. Wow, yeah, we kind of did it. Super cool. Super fucking cool.
Mute everything.
All right, let's mute everything, chat a little bit. Cool. Thank you guys. Awesome. So we're doing this the new way. We're kind of not running through our whole system. We're running through my iPhone. I hope that sounds okay. We're definitely going to go back and listen afterwards. We've had so much trouble with streaming directly from our whole mixer and our whole setup over here, which sucks because that system is awesome. So what we're doing is treating it like a PA now. So it's just kind of coming through there, and then you can also hear us in here live. So hopefully it's cool. We'll at some point, I'm sure, stumble upon how to do this more studio quality streaming, but we haven't really figured that out yet. So
Yeah, I don't know why. It just seems like with the acoustics, it just doesn't like it.
No, it doesn't.
And I don't know why that is, because we play music out of Pro Tools all the time. We go through our sessions and all that, but for whatever reason, whenever we play acoustically, it just gets pissed off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
This is so cool. I think Steve's watching under Ladytron's account.
Oh,
It's so fucking cool. You look and you see Ladytron on your chat. You're just like, holy shit, But we're lucky enough to have a really good friend of ours named Steve Pross, who Emperor Norton Records, the entire electroclash scene, all this music that we really care about and that influenced us so greatly. I've talked about it many times, but he's working on a platform that we're involved with, all sorts of cool stuff, but he also manages Ladytron and puts out their albums and everything. And Ladytron's a huge influence on us as well, and we're just super big fans of everything they do.
Yeah.
And super big fans of everything that Steve's doing. He's just an incredible human being who's just always seems to be involved in super cool stuff. So anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna head to LA. I'm gonna be up at the Viper Room tonight for a private show with Edema. Every now and then when you're in a band, the good part being in a band sometimes is you get paid a lot of money to play a private gig for, it could be a law firm, it could be like a corporation hires you, and they have holiday parties and stuff, and we're playing with Sponge, we're playing with Edema, playing with the Nixons.
And that's how we met our crazy friend Nick.
Yeah. So we've actually met a lot of cool people doing this, because sometimes, these companies, they want to do something special for their employees and they hire, popular bands to play. And that's what I'm doing tonight. So unfortunately, it's not something that's open to the public, but it'll be fun. And then that is officially my fucking last show.
So he says.
So he says, well, until we get another high paying corporate gig. But tonight we're not bringing our lighting rig. We're not doing any of the stuff that involves it being really hard for me. Weirdly enough, always these shows are work for me. But it's going to be really cool to go up and do it. Ellen, if you want to come, I do have a guest list. You guys are welcome to come. I have an unlimited guest list. In fact, anyone that's in LA, if you want to come, I'll put you on our guest list. That's a Patreon subscriber. If you want to come, you know how to get a hold of me. I'll put you on the guest list. Just let me know, because we love you guys. It's a relatively early show. Viper Room is always a nightmare late, right? Mm-hmm. And this is going to be pretty early. So, Orbital Bacon, do we still do soundtracks? We do. I will tell you though, you recently discovered some of our stuff on video games and soundtracks. We do and we will. It's a lot more work than we ever anticipated. It pays well in some cases. Video game work is paid really well. I think the Transformers one is the one that I'm happiest with because we've had the most control over what happened
Yeah.
and we got paid the most.
Yeah.
Frankly, if we're gonna create an album worth of material for a fucking game or something, I want, like $100,000 or something stupid because it's that much work and that's how much money we make doing this work. So I'd say that the ones that I'm less happy with would be, even though they're huge, is the Sonic stuff because we don't have any control over it, and it's our biggest songs because Sonic is such a big game.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a little more control over how it's used and what happens with it because when the song's that big, a band wants some control over it. That's
and creative control too.
Creative control.
We didn't really have a whole lot of.
Yeah.
So
those are things that we would love to do. Yeah, Revenge of the Fallen was great. We kind of got to do what we wanted to do. It's a good game. We got paid fairly.
Yeah.
And it was with a friend of ours.
Yeah.
Some of the soundtrack stuff that we've done for, some of the movies, I'd say some stuff we've done has been cool. A lot of the stuff, some of the movies weren't very good.
Yeah.
And we would like it, and it didn't pay well as well. So it was us experimenting with what that's like. Now we know we can do soundtracks, we can do them really well, but we also know that we need to be, someone's going to hire us to do a soundtrack, you're hiring us to do the music that we do. So we can take input, but we need to make music that we think, you want our vibe.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I prefer to just license our music for movies and TV and things like that. I mean, it's, because then we're being represented as what we are.
Yeah.
And I personally like that the best. I mean, the other stuff, it's like Brian said, it's tricky because
I think if we had some control,
a lot of chiefs.
We knew it was a good movie.
A lot of Indians and or too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah, I think that for me, if there was a movie that I knew was going to be great with someone I really trusted, and they also trusted us, and there was input like, hey, here's this mood, this and that, do what you guys do. That to me, that could be really fun. But I can tell you right now, I don't think I will be involved in a soundtrack that isn't like that at this point. Because we need to go in and have a good time.
The other thing I think is, more importantly, I prefer to just create our own music and have new Julien-K music over doing that kind of stuff.
Hands down at this point, we'll make more money. And it isn't all about money. But it is about controlling our work, making what we love, being able to make a living doing it, to be able to keep the lights on here and keep this place working. And our fans, I think, are the most delighted by our music, and our job is to make you guys happy and to do things you guys love. That is our absolute job. All right, well, guys, I have to be up at Soundcheck in LA. This was great. There's actually a good amount of people here, and we're really happy. Guys, if you don't support us on Patreon, jump on Patreon because we do this kind of stuff all the time. If you liked what you saw here, if you enjoyed hanging out with us, we hang out every week.
We have a very broad tier. It goes from $5 a month all the way to $500.
Yep.
So, even if you just do the $500, do the $500. No, even if you just do the $5 one. I mean, look, it all helps.
Yeah.
And if you stay consistent, it really makes a lot of this a lot easier for us to do.
Yeah. I think that even more of this, having you guys engaged is a big deal. Just having a small group of people that give a shit about the band and even have a little skin in the game, that's what it is for us. So, because doing all this is a lot of work, so it matters that we're doing it for people that care. Lastly, patrons that are subscribing, I'm home now. We're really working, this week we worked every day on music, which honestly was delightful. I mean, that's really cool. We actually moved forward. Last night, I finally got in here and worked on vocals by myself, which has been really hard for me to finally do, but I'm starting to get the muscle back. And that means that I'm going to be fucking with our events. I'm going to try to do some new stuff. I'm going to try to add stuff. I'm going to do more fly on the wall. When songs I think are worth kind of sharing a little bit, I'm going to want to share it with you guys and talk with you about this stuff. I'm also going to do another house party like chat like we did last weekend. But I have a bunch of stuff I need to go over with our patrons regarding new ideas, new stuff coming out. I want some feedback on it. So guys, if you're watching, the next house party, or kind of call it like a fan summit, I want you guys there because I want to chat with you guys about some ideas I have for this coming year, but especially these next 4 months up until March is when I leave again. So, love you.
Happy holidays, guys.
All right, enjoy my dog.
Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, I get the Wolfman.
He gets Wolfgang. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to get back here and turn you off.
Cool, that turned out pretty cool.